tough here today. No doubt about it. That was right at about 20 feet. Come to life now. Oh, nice trout. Ooh, daddy, look at that big rainbow. Right there, Trigger Spoon Jr. Woo! Woo! Oh, that's a stud right there. What a beauty. Howdy folks, Cal Kellogg here. Well, I'm getting ready to go fishing tomorrow. I'm rigging up my kayak and all that, getting all my gear together. But I wanted to take a minute to talk about trout fishing tactics. And I actually learned something last week. And you know me, I've been trout fishing forever, but you never know so much that there's not, more to learn. And this has been a very unique spring. We've had not very much weather, high country lakes that are usually covered in ice at this point. They're ice-free. Lakes that are usually in the 30s, the water's inching up into the 40-degree range. It's just been a very unique, very dry, late winter / early spring season. So last week I headed up to Lake Elsinore. I launched near the dam. The water temperature was right at 40 degrees when I launched, which is significantly higher than it should have been at the end of February. It should have been down in the middle 30s. But by Elsinore standards, surface water was warm. And I immediately noticed big rainbows up feeding on the surface. They would slowly come up, they would take insects, they would go down, and some of these fish looked to be 25 plus inches long. So naturally, I got pretty excited. I put out a smelt pattern fly, I put out a smelt pattern spoon, and I diligently worked the top 5 feet of the water column for 90 minutes, and I didn't get a touch. And I mean, I'm fishing through some really nice fish, and I was a little dismayed. Now, I was marking some fish down deeper, so I started kind of exploring the water column. First hookup came at 12 feet on an orange fly. Next hookup came at 15 feet. I caught 2 fish there. They were smaller rainbows. And the final fish of the day was a beautiful 23-inch fish, which, if I remember right, he came at 15 to 20 feet deep. So clearly the actively feeding fish were not up on the surface. It wasn't a great day. The fish were playing hard to get, but the fish deeper in the water column were much more willing to strike than the fish up on the surface. And I actually got a number of short strikes while trolling in that 12 to 15 foot range as well. So I pull off the lake in the afternoon. I'm putting my stuff away, and up comes an older fella. I believe his name was Dave. If you're out there, Dave, hopefully I got your name right. If I didn't, I apologize. But long story short, he'd been fly fishing at Lake Elsinore for over 40 years. And, he was one of those old guys that obviously, well, he's not that old. I think he said he was 67. So he was a semi-old fella, just a little older than me. So I'll be 67 before I know it, I'm sure. But anyway, back to the story. We start talking, and he's kind of probing me to see if I'm just a yahoo or if I know anything, and he's looking at me like I'm a whippersnapper, in my funny old kayak. And as we talk, I could see he's kind of starting to share more information. And he says, "Where did you catch your fish today?" I said, "Well, 12 to 20 feet seemed to be the hot depth." And I said, "Obviously, the more active fish were deeper in the water column, but I'm scratching my head why." I said, "The water temperature is coming up, still very cold, 40 degrees when I launched. It spiked up to 42 degrees. I would think that the feeding trout would be up on top." And he says, "At any other time of the year than during the late winter and early spring, you'd be correct." He's all, "This is the situation, and this is why you were having, hits and catching fish deeper." He said, "So think about it. We're coming out of a winter," and he said, "regardless of whether it snowed or not, it's been cold. The fish in the lake, they're acclimated to that 30-some degree water. the bait fish, the smelt that the fish are, actually feeding on, they're acclimated to that water temperature too. Now, everybody likes to get warm, including the fish. He said, the fish you were seeing on the surface, while you did see them taking a few insects, basically targets of opportunity, he said, the fish you were seeing up top were not the active fish. He said, those fish were up there 100% to get in the sun and get warm. They were up there near the surface where the water was at its maximum temperature, and they were just enjoying the warmth, even though it was only 40 degrees, right? First thing in the morning. But he said that's what those fish were doing. He said the actively feeding fish, well, they were down there in that water temperature that they were used to. They were feeding on pond smelt, so you probably saw that when you cleaned the fish, and he was right. They were full of tiny little pond smelt, and he's all, that's where the fish that were kind of in their comfort zone, the comfort zone they had established, all winter long, they were down there in that 30-some degree water, and they were feeding. It wasn't an intense bite, but still I was able to get hit down in that depth. So I leave the lake, and I thought that was interesting. I noted that away. I was going to stay, but it ended up getting windy, so I came home and I went to Sugar Pine Reservoir, which is about, half an hour from my house. Now, it's been planted a couple times, but the fish are acclimated to the lake, and, bottom line is they've been in there a while. They're kind of dialing into the food chain, whatever the food chain is at Sugar Pine, some minnows, mostly bugs, stuff like that. And sure enough, I get out there, what do I see? Fish on the surface. Okay. Start working the surface, standard stuff. These are planted rainbows, small spoons, stuff like that. Zip, zero, nothing. But this time I don't troll for 90 minutes. I put in about a half an hour, and when I don't get hit, guess what? I start dropping down in the water column, and as soon as I get my baits down, and the water was probably 46 degrees as I recall, as soon as I get my baits down around 12 to 15 feet deep, I start getting hit. And that was the pattern for the day. I got fish from 12 to 20 feet deep. The bite was very, very good. I caught, what did I get? I got 18 fish. Got 18 fish, and all of them were below 10 feet, despite the fact that I had surface activity all day long. Fish on the mag lip. That fish was down deep too. Wow. That fish was down around 15 feet. See if we can just lift him in here. Oh, that's a nice rainbow. Look at that. Very good. On the mag lip. I even tried fishing a worm under a bobber 4 feet deep just to see if I could get hit. I was fishing it right in the middle of fish that were coming up, making little swirls on the surface. I never got a touch. Now, I'm confident had I dropped that worm down to 12, 15 feet, I probably would have got hit, but I was just experimenting to see if I could get those surface fish to go on natural bait, and I couldn't do it. So the takeaway from this is, remember this as you go out and hit lakes this spring. Remember, even though you see fish on the surface, you see fish up, maybe they're occasionally taking an insect on the surface, I would, by all means, try those fish, because, I love fishing, I love top line, and I love targeting trout up top. But don't spend a lot of time. If you can't get those fish near the top to go, think about what that old fly fisherman, told me. They might be acclimated to colder water, which is a little bit deeper. So start using your lead core, start using your trolling weights, start exploring that water column, start moving deeper, put in a little bit of time at each depth, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, and see if you can get hit. And I suspect if you're in conditions like I experienced at Elminor and at Sugar Pine, you're going to get hit in deeper water where the fish, they're finding that temperature zone that they are comfortable with. And remember, and this is kind of a final thought, and I don't know where this fits in the puzzle. I was out with Randy Pringle, the bass guy. He's a pretty famous bass guy down in the East Delta. It was summertime. It was sweltering hot. And we hit the water, and we're throwing frogs and stuff. We're trying to catch largemouth bass. Couldn't get them to go. Even though the water temperature, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like 75 degrees, 74 degrees, something like that. Couldn't get the fish to come up on top. And Randy told me, he says, you know what? I'm not surprised. The water temperature dropped. I said, yeah, it dropped, but it's still right in their comfort zone. He said, that doesn't matter. He said, just remember, and I don't care what kind of fish you're fishing for, when the water temperature drops, it takes the fish out of whatever that comfort zone they were used to, you know, whatever they were in, and it makes them less apt to chase, less apt to come up on the surface and stuff like that. And that's exactly what we were seeing with the trout up at Elminor and up at Sugar Pine. Those fish, the fish they were willing to feed, but only in water that they were used to, only in a temperature range that they were acclimated to. They moved up in the water column, it was to get warm, it wasn't to feed. That's what we saw. So anyway, file that away in your strategy bank. That's a little bit upper level stuff. I mean, I've been at this for decades, guys, and I am still learning new things. So file that away, and hopefully it's going to help you catch more and bigger fish. And more importantly, maybe you'll hit the water like I did at Elminor. It's going to be tough, and it's going to help you get hit, because nobody likes getting skunked. And you know, that day I ended up with a really nice fish, nice 23-inch fish, nothing to complain about. It wasn't my usual 5+ pound Elminor trout, but it was a really handsome fish nevertheless. So I'm Kel Kellogg. Give you something to think about, if nothing else. I am signing off for now. I will catch you later. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you're looking for trout gear, you know where to go. Go to the Fish Hunt Shoot website and check out my store. Got all kinds of gear in there. Great gear at a fair price, stuff that I rely on when I'm out on the water. I'm signing off. I'll catch you next time right here on YouTube, guys. I'm Kel Kellogg.